Walking through certain streets in Japan can feel like stepping into a ghost town. The silence is unsettling. No cars, no people, just closed shops and empty houses. This eerie emptiness reflects a deeper demographic crisis. More people are dying than being born. In fact, nearly 14% of all houses in Japan are vacant, known locally as ikiya. There are around 9 million of these abandoned homes, primarily in rural areas, slowly decaying with time. This population decline has had widespread impacts, including the closure of nearly 9,000 schools over the last 20 years. But Japan isn't alone in facing this challenge. Many towns in Spain, particularly in regions like Galicia and Castile and León, are also experiencing deserted streets. Once thriving communities are now grappling with shrinking populations, as birth rates have plummeted while death rates remain steady or increase. In a bid to reverse this trend, Spain has begun offering properties in certain rural areas for as little as $1, along with grants for renovation and tax breaks. The hope is to attract families and entrepreneurs who can breathe new life into these dying towns, helping to restore their economic and social vitality. Italy faces a similar situation. The country's fertility rates began to decline in the 1980s, and the problem has become so acute that Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has created a Ministry of Family and Birth to address it. The Italian government has introduced measures like cutting VAT on baby products and increasing family allowances. However, as seen in countries like South Korea, financial incentives alone often have limited success in reversing demographic decline. South Korea, which has one of the lowest birth rates in the world, is also trying to encourage families to have more children through financial support. Yet the cultural and economic pressures leading to lower birth rates persist. In contrast, Canada is taking a different approach. Some provinces are actively promoting immigration as a strategy to counter declining birth rates and an aging population. Immigration is seen as a key tool to maintain population levels and support economic growth, especially in regions facing a demographic downturn. A global shift towards population decline. In various parts of the world, the human population is either already shrinking or will soon begin to decline. This trend has sparked widespread concern about a potential population collapse, which could lead to significant global challenges. You might be thinking, but isn't the global population still growing? Yes, the total population is projected to rise from 8 billion today to a peak of 9 or 10 billion by mid-century. However, while the population has more than doubled since the 1960s, the growth rate has been consistently declining. The world is moving towards a period where population growth will slow, plateau, and eventually decline. This shift towards low fertility and an aging population represents one of the most fundamental changes in modern human history. The numbers behind the decline. Fertility rates are down almost everywhere, though the pace varies by region. If current fertility rates remain unchanged, by the end of this century, China's population could be less than half its current size, a loss of about 800 million people. South Korea's population could shrink by 63%, and Poland's and Japan's by 50%. Italy, Thailand, and Eastern Europe are also facing significant declines, with reductions of 40% or more. Just 2 decades ago, the median age in countries like Japan, Italy, and Germany was 40. Today, that median age has spread to countries like Thailand, Kuwait, and Cuba, with nations like Chile, Iran, and Vietnam not far behind. Even India, which recently became the world's most populous country, has a fertility rate below the replacement level. The number of young people entering India's workforce has already peaked, signaling future challenges as the population ages. Africa, the exception. Africa stands as a notable exception to this trend. The continent's population is expected to continue growing for most of the century. By 2050, just 8 countries, most of them in Africa, will contribute more than half of the world's population growth. This highlights the growing importance of immigration and population management strategies in addressing demographic shifts, a topic that deserves its own discussion. The future of global population. Where do we go from here? The United Nations projects that the global population will reach about 9.7 billion by 2050, but growth will slow significantly afterward. By the 2080s, the population is expected to peak at around 10.4 billion and then decline. Some models, like the one from the Health Research Center, IHME, suggest that the population might peak much sooner, in just 40 years. These projections point to a future where the global population may start to decrease faster than expected. The complex causes of population decline. So why are birth rates falling so dramatically around the world? One of the most significant factors is the increasing pressure in the workplace. In many developed countries, including Japan, South Korea, and parts of Europe, long working hours and high job demands make it challenging for individuals to balance work with family life. For example, in Japan, where the average working day often exceeds 10 hours, many people feel they lack the time and energy needed to raise children. This issue isn't limited to Asia. In countries like the United States and the United Kingdom, work-life balance is also a concern, leading to delayed or fewer pregnancies. The high cost of living, particularly in urban areas, is another major deterrent to having children. In countries like South Korea, where housing prices have skyrocketed, and in major European cities like London and Paris, the financial burden of raising a family can be overwhelming. For instance, the average cost of raising a child in the United States is estimated at over $233,000. This financial strain leads many couples to either delay having children or decide to have fewer children than they might otherwise want. As a result of these economic pressures, many people are delaying marriage. The average age of first marriage has been steadily increasing worldwide. In South Korea, the average age for women to marry is now over 30, compared to 24 in the 1980s. In the United States, the average age of first marriage has risen to 29 for men and 27 for women, a significant increase from previous decades. This delay in marriage reduces the window of time available for childbearing, leading to lower birth rates. Cultural shifts are also playing a critical role. Around the world, more people are prioritizing personal freedom, career development, and lifestyle choices over traditional family life. In places like Italy and Spain, where economic conditions are tough and youth unemployment is high, many young people are opting for a lifestyle without the responsibilities of children. The trend of enjoying a child-free life is growing in popularity, as reflected in surveys where more people express a preference for traveling, pursuing hobbies, and maintaining independence. The impact of population decline on society. Is a declining population a bad thing? Some argue that a smaller population might ease the strain on our planet, with fewer but more prosperous individuals able to support the elderly. People don't fully grasp the risks associated with population decline, particularly regarding infrastructure, goods and services, and economic stability. Our current systems are built for a growing population. What happens when a town's population dwindles and there aren't enough taxpayers to support public services? We could see a scenario where cities can no longer afford essential services like police and fire departments, leading to potential chaos and collapse. Detroit offers a cautionary tale. Once a thriving city, Detroit fell into ruin as its population declined. Entire neighborhoods were abandoned, and the city struggled to maintain public services. While Detroit is now experiencing some recovery, the challenges it faced could be repeated on a much larger scale if global populations continue to decline. On a social level, population decline can lead to aging populations, where a larger proportion of society is elderly. This demographic shift puts immense pressure on social welfare systems, as fewer working-age individuals must support a growing number of retirees. Pensions, healthcare, and other social services could become strained, leading to potential cuts in benefits or the need for significant policy changes. The cultural landscape could also shift, as smaller, aging populations might lead to less innovation, slower cultural evolution, and even the fading of certain traditions or languages. Adapting to a new reality. Moving away from the mindset that population and economic growth must continue indefinitely might be necessary. Eventually, we'll need to adapt to a world with a declining population. Governments and societies must engage in long-term strategic planning to address the challenges of population decline. With careful management and resource redistribution, a smaller global population could be sustainable. However, this will require forward-thinking policies and international cooperation to address the demographic changes ahead. This could include policies to encourage higher birth rates, attract immigrants, or adapt economic models to function with smaller populations. The years 2050 and 2100 may seem distant, but the time to start planning for these changes is now. As we grapple with the challenges of population decline, we must rethink our approach to growth and sustainability, ensuring that future generations can thrive in a world with fewer people.